Throughout GD's history, top players across the generations have talked about their experiences with the levels that they play. On one side, people may use the phrase skill issue to justify a bad experience, whereas other people just complain about their poor luck. But why is that? To answer this question, we have to learn about luck itself. If we go by definition, luck refers to something which happens to a person beyond the person's control. Now, if we apply that to Geometry Dash, we have a lot of arguments that control the idea of luck existing or not existing, and this video will be diving into that discussion. Let's first think about the wider aspect of this idea. Many things in life are misinterpreted as luck. Take for example, a coin flip. Many would say that a coin flip is depending on luck. However, it's the way you flip it that determines what side it lands on. Now, how does this relate to Geometry Dash? Well, we can use the same logic here and say that there isn't luck, as passing the parts needed to beat a level depends on the person's timing of the click. It contributes to the definition. However, think about it this way. It may depend on the person's clicks, but what about the odds that the person will do the right click pattern for the entire level? I know it sounds far-fetched, but hear me out. Stair of Madness, renowned as one of the easiest levels in the game. If you try to beat Stair of Madness 1,000 times in a row, you're gonna die. It doesn't matter how hard it is, anything that requires some sort of reflex or precision will never be 100% consistent for any human. There is always a possibility that you fail, and it's not because you're good at the game that you're never gonna die. Talking about top players, why sometimes does a top player get significantly worse luck than a player who is not as good? Take for example, Dice88 and GDultimate8. Although Dice can be considered better than Ultimate, he had a much worse experience, dying at 98 a whole 8 times. Now if we compare this to Ultimate's, we can see that he died to 97, because he didn't listen to me saying how to do it, but only dying at 76 plus 29 times. Now we don't know Dice's deaths, but we can assume that it's much more, as he did get 98 8 times. Here's another example that's more close to the point. Space UK, arguably the best player in the world, died at 85 plus too many times to count carries, whereas Crimson King's worst deaths were 54. Twice. How do better players sometimes get a worse experience? This example contributes to the idea of there being luck. On the topic of flukes, flukes can have an impact on the idea of luck. Although a fluke cannot be guaranteed, there is more of a chance of getting better luck if parts are practiced more. For example, Frozen Tartarus experience. He overpracticed 64 to 100 on Tartarus to the point where he only died twice past 64. Whereas I on the other hand died 63 times past 64 as I didn't overpractice. Obviously you can fluke levels even if you don't overpractice, but you do have a higher chance of being able to get lucky, which contributes to there not being luck in GD. Again tying into flukes, there is the factor of a fluke not being guaranteed. The outcome of expecting a fluke is not guaranteed no matter how much you practice, so the fluke is not controlled by your action. And if it's not controlled by your actions, it means that it must be by definition considered luck. A pretty huge aspect that determines whether you get a lucky or unlucky experience is your mindset during a level. A positive mindset involves being confident in your ability, a positive mood, and most importantly, a level of concentration that is ideal for you. Now, a negative mindset suggests you're constantly getting more and more stressed, which leads to more deaths and more anger as time goes on. Due to this, you will also lose your concentration and will take a longer time to reach your goal. I'm not a psychologist, but I've played the game enough now to know that arguably mindsets have the biggest factor to alter your luck on a Geometry Dash level. Likely every description that details about their negative mindset would have an equally bad death count in relation, and I will present my case towards the end of this video. The final argument I will be discussing today is Mindblocks. Mindblocks are caused by target fixation. As you concentrate on something, you die in the process. For example, if you've died to something a lot recently and concentrate on that one part, you will be thrown off and die at it anyway, and get more frustrated as you concentrated on it more to pass it. The definition here backs up this. This can also be said for if you are fixated on something and get past it, you have the chance of dying straight after. So overall, this factor contributes to there not being luck as it depends on your actions. So that finishes all my points. These are just examples of each side of the question, as I can't explain them since I don't really know what I'm on about. But in conclusion, what do I think? Well, there are plenty of arguments that back up both sides, but I'd have to go with there not being luck. My recent example is Lucid Chaos. I kept on getting to the 60 wave every attempt and was getting very unlucky, until GDultimate8 told me to practice it for 10 attempts. Since my playstyle has never been practicing levels, I then got 97 and 100 2 attempts after practicing, as I got past the wave both times. This is when I questioned if there was really luck in Geometry Dash, or if it was just in people's heads.